Are you ready to branch out, to take a leap of faith, to love yourself and others fully? Then let go of whatever no longer serves you to take action now on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Erica will energize and excite you to power up your passionate dream that sets your soul on fire. With Erica's E3 approach, equipping, empowering, and enlightening yourself so you can be yourself for yourself. Get ready and get rooted to live a life without regrets, without what ifs, without should haves, and especially without empty feelings from a life unexplored. This hit show helps you build powerful and intentional roots to live it up, love it up, and let it go. Get fearlessly ready and powerfully rooted in your yes with your host, Erica Gifford Mills, and be fearless about your more and stand in your yes. Now on Get Rooted Radio.
Welcome, everyone. I am Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio, living it up, loving it up, letting it go, right here on Transformation Talk Radio. A big shout out, as always, to our producer, Jacob. Hey, Jacob, how you doing? I'm doing really well. And your weekend, you've had any fun adventures? Well, that's good. Yep, definitely planning mode, getting those save the dates out.
That's right.
That is definitely a journey. Planning a wedding and a future with someone is definitely a journey. And that is something we are talking about today. No, not weddings, but journeys. Each life is a journey that takes us to places we either love, hate, or wish for something totally different. And each day you live is not simply a matter of putting in the time, but it is instead putting time towards making life better for you, your loved ones, and each person with you come in contact with. But wouldn't it be nice if there was a map for navigating the unpredictable journey that is living the life? That map does exist. It is a real map that's just for you and your experience. And anyone that's looking to grow, to heal, or do the impossible can create this map. And my guest today, Stephenie Zamora, is going to share her signature 5-stage journey mapping process. But let me tell you a little bit about Stephenie first. Stephenie is an author and coach, a business and marketing strategist, the founder of Stephenie Zamora Media. It's a digital media and production company, publishing house, and a full-service life purpose development, branding, and online marketing boutique. Her company has been merging the worlds of personal development, digital media, and online marketing, to help individuals build purpose-driven lives and businesses for nearly a decade. Stephenie's work helps catalyze individuals on their healing and growth journeys so they can uncover the purpose of their path, step into who they're here to be, and do the work they're here to do. And with that, thank you so much, Stephenie, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, it is a privilege and an honor to be working with you. I want to tell our listeners just a little bit about you, your story, and your journey.
Yeah. So I always say purpose is my purpose. And that's just really what everything in my own personal journey and my work has centered around. But journey mapping came to be from a very sudden and traumatic loss in 2014. At the time, I had a lot going for me. My business was thriving. I was really figuring out who I was and who I wanted to be. And the only thing that wasn't serving me at the time was my relationship. And so I ended a 2-year relationship with a man I loved that just was no longer right for me. And he ended up committing suicide shortly after. And that just absolutely flattened me and my life and caused me to have PTSD so bad that I would drive in circles around my house because in the time it took to lap the block, I would forget that I was going home again. I couldn't put my own life story in order, let alone tell you what I did the day before. I couldn't remember who half my clients were and couldn't build websites, which is something that I had done for quite a while and was good at. And because of the PTSD, waltzed right into an abusive relationship with a drug addict that I believed was the love of my life. And so being in that relationship with him on top of the trauma and the PTSD and the loss, it all really compounded into a lot of different health issues. I had adrenal fatigue so bad that it would exhaust me to walk from the couch to the kitchen, and really severe back and hip pain. I had incredibly intense panic attacks and anxiety, which I had never had before. And the worst of it was when I developed dysphagia, which is where you actually stop swallowing. And so for 9 days, I couldn't swallow. I couldn't eat or drink, and I couldn't swallow even my own saliva. I had one IV in the middle of that, which was a very intense period. And it was nearly a year before I could eat and drink normally. And throughout all of this, my business is dying a slow death because I'm energetically not able to show up for it. And I am outside myself, and I don't know who I am anymore. And I'm dealing with all of these things. And so I had to file bankruptcy at one point, and learned more than I ever wanted to know about healing and what it takes to really rise up and come back from these challenging chapters, which now I'm really able to pour into my work with other people and into my writing. And ultimately, I'm grateful for where I am on the journey, but that doesn't come without still having heartbreak for everything I lost along the way. It's been quite a journey.
And that is, I mean, and it's unfortunate, of course, everything that we go through in life, but to see that you're doing what you're doing to help others so that they don't have to go and have to deal with it on their own, it's inspirational. So thank you
Thank
for,
you.
what you do. But I'd like to know, what is journey mapping, and
Yeah.
how, based on your experiences, how did you create it?
Yeah, so journey mapping is loosely based on The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell. And so, anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's a narrative pattern that Joseph Campbell created, and it consists of 3 acts and 12 different stages. And you can see it when you understand what all these different moving parts and pieces are. You see it at the core of every journey that we go on personally, every movie, every book, every myth. Like it's just the framework for journeys and kind of what we go through. And about 6 months after my loss, I realized I was starting to write a book about everything that I was going through. And of course, didn't know how I was going to write it because I was still living out the story and the ending. But a mentor of mine gave me the writer's journey, which is the hero's journey for screenplay writing. But it's such a great book that really breaks down all of the different types of characters in the hero's journey and all of the different stages and what we go through. And so the first Thanksgiving after my loss was very close to the year anniversary. And I had this intense second coming of grief. I had been starting to do my healing work and starting to get my footing in that regard, but the grief just came up around all the first anniversaries and just knocked the wind out of me. And I felt very frustrated and positive that I was never going to get out of the depths of it, that I was always going to be stuck in this grief, and felt very inspired to pick up the writer's journey and start reading, and started reading about the second ordeal in particular, which is basically, if you watch movies, it's when the bad guy comes back and they have the final battle, or it's the final chase scene. It's like the second coming of the death and rebirth and the big thing that you've gone through. And I realized this is just a second coming. And there is no hitting rock bottom and bouncing back. I actually have to make the choice to rise up and come back and to move through this. And until we really make that choice and start doing that work, we keep having these second comings, these third, fourth, fifth, 10th waves of whatever it is that we haven't really processed and dealt with. And so I started doing the work to choose every single day to come back and to make choices that felt impossible and overwhelming and exhausting and hard, to really start healing, to really start figuring out who am I now and what comes next. And so journey mapping is built from bits of the hero's journey, but a lot of the things that I learned for myself, such as like, how do we have trust and faith in ourselves? How do we reorient to our life and work and relationships after these things that we've gone through? What does it even mean to make the choice to come back? And where are we trying to go now that we've been so altered at our core? And so journey mapping was just a very organic. When I felt like I had come through the other side and I was ready to really support other people, it was very organic to say, okay, well, this is what helped me, and setting it up in a way that's very process oriented. So it doesn't only work for people who have been through similar things to me. It works for everybody because it's very anchored in, what are you going through? Where are you coming from? Where are you trying to go now? And what is it that you need? What kind of resources internally and externally to really get to where you want to go?
And I think, and I love how you said that it doesn't have to be a similar journey, because all of our journeys are so unique, right? We may all be living in the same world, but we're all on a different journey. And being able to have a tool in your toolkit, such as this journey mapping, is so important for people. And I know you said there was 5 stages. So what are the 5 stages of journey mapping?
Yeah, the high overview is the first stage is really preparing for the journey. And that's all about really getting to know yourself fully and completely, who you are right now, not who you were before, and building a sense of trust and faith in yourself to navigate everything that's coming, a sense of trust and faith in whatever higher source resonates for you, whether that's God or source or the universe or the energy that is, like learning how to work with this world that we live in a different way, and having a foundation to be able to discern and intuit what's right for you. Because with these journeys and with healing and growth, everyone has an opinion and everyone has their experience. And it's not particularly helpful or useful or even relevant to what we're going through. And so you have to be able to discern what's right for you. Otherwise, you can't do anything that comes after this first stage. And the second stage is all about looking at the ordinary world. So having a sense of where we came from so that we can have a point of reference to where am I now and where am I trying to go from here, not clinging to it with hope to go back, but just as a point of reference and really understanding elements of that that are helpful and useful. The third stage is navigating the special world. So it's the deep underbelly of the journey. It's all about death and rebirth and letting go of aspects of our life, relationships, and self so that we can really glean whatever wisdom and lessons we need to move forward. And the fourth stage is choosing the path for return. So that's what we just talked about, making the choice to do the healing work, to rise up and come back and figure out who am I now and where am I trying to go from here. And the final stage is just stepping into what comes next. This is where we really start to integrate everything that we've learned, and we're really clear on who we are and what we want to create. And we start laying the foundation for that to become possible.
And those are big steps, right?
Yes.
So we shouldn't ever expect this isn't going to happen overnight. Just like getting from point A to point B, it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you have to take detours, and
Yes.
sometimes we have to be patient with ourselves, be patient with the process, trust the process, and be able to
Absolutely.
do the work. I mean, if you have a roadmap and for folks, but you have to be willing to put in the work.
Yes.
And that's what we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the 2 common ways we get stuck and stalled on this journey. But before we go, Stephenie, tell folks how they can reach you.
Yeah, you can find me at stepheniezamora.com, and that will guide you to everything that I do and have created.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. You're listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any portion of today's episode, you can catch it on getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com. Don't forget to subscribe online to receive the latest news, events, specials, and words of encouragement. Go to getrootedradio.com. I'd like to welcome back my guest, Stephenie Zamora. Thanks again for joining us today, Stephenie.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So listeners, have you ever been stuck and ever been stalled? We were just talking about stick shifts. It's kind of like that, right? If we're putting right along and then we come to something where you need to stop and you just don't know how to get started back up. Not sure where to go from where you are. And that's what we are going to talk about during this segment is common ways we get stuck and stalled. Stephenie, what are they?
Yeah, so when it comes to these journeys that we're working through and this healing and growth work, I have found that there are 2 common choice points. And I call them that because it's exactly what it sounds like. You have to make a choice, otherwise you get stalled or stuck. And so if you're on a journey, which we're all on a journey, and sometimes we're on journeys inside journeys inside journeys, if you're feeling stuck and stalled out, you're likely at one of these 2. And the first one is accepting the invitation of the soul. It shows up in one of 2 ways. It's either an obvious invitation. I am asking you if you want to do something. There is an opportunity in front of me. I have to make the decision on my lease. Do I stay or do I go? And other times these decisions, these invitations are thrust upon us. Mine was thrust upon me. It wasn't a ask, did I want to lose somebody that I cared about to suicide? It just happened. And I had to make the decision to surrender to what was happening versus resist it. And so oftentimes when it's thrust upon us, we're resisting it. When it's an obvious invitation, we're uncertain and we're terrified. And even if we know deep down what we want to do, we're scared to move forward. And so we get stuck in what Christina Rasmussen calls the waiting room. It's like we can't go backwards, but we're not going forward. We're just hanging out in limbo. And so that's one of the first things. And surrender is a big piece of it either way, because if it's a big opportunity that I need to say yes to, it can come with a lot of change and transition and a lot of fear that comes with going into new things and the unknown. And when we surrender to my life is no longer what it was before, I have been through something that's altered me at my core, it's surrender. I don't know what's happening now. I don't even know who I am anymore. And so it's a very common place where we get tripped up early on. And the second choice point is what we've been talking about, where you have hit rock bottom. You have been through death and rebirth. You are in that deep underbelly of your journey. And I always talk about how the fall is not the hard part. We think that that's the hard part because it hurts and it sucks and it's challenging. And everything about it is disorienting and awful. And yet the hard part is making the choice to come back. And so we often get stuck there. I certainly did for a little while, because the choice is not this intellectual, okay, I'm done. I'm ready to be better and to heal and to create the change I want. It's in the seemingly insignificant moments, moment to moment, minute to minute, day to day, choosing to get out of bed and shower, choosing to go to the gym and cry in the parking lot before going home is something that I did a lot. Making these tiny, insignificant, small choices every day to rise, to come back, to lean into the question of who am I now and who am I becoming? And it's so hard. And it's not that we can't rest when we're doing it. We should absolutely rest and take care of ourselves. But if we stop because it's hard and it feels impossible, then we never actually heal and move through in the way that we're meant to. And it's really difficult.
Yeah, it's that vulnerability that, do I try this? What if I fail? Do I try this? What if I succeed? Right? It's all the fear of the unknown. And that fear can be devastating, right? It can be really paralyzing. And it's that choice. And I think that's a great term, that those are choice points. What are you going to do? But what needs to happen for those people to kind of move past them and get back into motion and to move forward, especially when you just don't know and you're scared and you don't know where to turn? What happens? What do they do?
Yeah. That's why we start with preparing and really knowing yourself. You have to have a deep level of trust in yourself to navigate whatever happens. And we think that having trust in ourselves and our intuition means we know what's going to happen. And then if we listen to those internal nudges and those little whispers that our intuition gives us, that everything's going to be seamless. And the reality is, especially in journeys like this, sometimes our intuition leads us right into something that's even more challenging than the thing we've gone through, in order to shape us and help us heal and help us grow and connect with new people or experiences. And so it's not easy, and we have to release our grip. Like I can't stress enough, surrender. And people, I think, are afraid of surrender because it feels like I'm just giving up. I'm just like gonna let life do what it's gonna do to me. And it's this balance between holding our vision of what we want, which can be as simple as, I just want to heal. I just want to feel like me again. Or as big as, I want to change the world and I want to do big things and make a ton of money and whatever it is. We hold our vision, but we stop being attached to the path that's going to get us there, because we can't possibly know everything. And that's where we go wrong, is we think we know everything. And we think we can just model other people, or just do this blueprint program over here, or, try the thing that so-and-so told us to do. But our path to where we're supposed to be can be very different. And so surrender is about holding the vision with openness to, I don't know what it's going to take to get there, but I trust myself that no matter what comes up, good or bad, I can navigate through to the other side, and I can keep figuring it out and putting one step in front of the other. And I'm also open to, I thought I wanted this, but what I'm meant to have in the aftermath is so much bigger and better. I never could have picked the life and work that I have now. I couldn't have chosen this. And yet being able to surrender and stay open is what allowed me to get here. So it's this internal balance and this internal fortitude that we have to have.
And I think that it's a great point, is keeping an openness, not only an open mind, but an open heart, that where you started may not be where you end up. I work with clients a lot who, well, I just spent 4 years plus another 2 years plus another however many clinical hours to get my nursing degree. And now I'm going to go off and do something different. Yeah, just because that's what you went to school for, right? Quote unquote, doesn't mean that might not be where you end up. You might be, as you're getting into it, finding that's not what I wanted, or something within that leads you to something else. And I think that's where people sometimes get stuck and stalled, is that, but I started this, I need to finish. And it's not that you're not finishing, you're keeping yourself open to the possibilities of really, what is that purpose? What is my why? And how am I going to live my life the most authentic way possible in doing so?
Exactly. And it's not for nothing. Sometimes we have to go through a whole experience to meet one person that takes us way in the opposite direction, or to have some opportunity, or to learn something. And so it's never wasted.
No, I completely agree. So how do we do this? Because I mean, we're listening to ourselves, and sometimes when we listen to ourselves, we get drawn someplace that maybe we shouldn't. But we have both those outside influences and inside influences. So